you've really got what I could consider to be an absolute dream job. You're working with Nicole and getting to do fashion spreads and doing all those kind of cool things. But you started out in Texas. I'm dying to know what got you into cosmetology. When did you make the decision this was what you want to do?
So I really wanted to do something that I really enjoyed doing, and at 17 you don't really know what that is. So I just really, in Texas we wear a lot of makeup. So I really wanted to be a
Texas
makeup
gals,
artist.
as they say,
yes.
right?
So I really wanted to be a makeup artist, and I'd practice on all my friends, and I actually got a job working for Six Flags as a special effects makeup artist, doing all the haunted houses for Halloween, and doing the haunted houses in the parks. And I loved it, doing the airbrush and the special effects, prosthetics, and so my dream job was to work for Tim Burton on any of his movies. That was my goal. But come to find out, special effects makeup is really expensive, and the schooling is even more expensive.
It is.
And so I just could not afford to go at the time. So my mom was like, why don't you just try hair school? And then, maybe you can make money that way and then get to special effects later. And I was like, okay, yeah, I'll try it. So I enrolled.
So it really wasn't hair that you started looking at, right?
No,
it was really the makeup side.
Nope.
It's kind of ironic, okay, but that's anyway.
Yeah, it is. Now people are like, do my makeup, and I'm like, no, you don't want me to do your makeup. So, but.
And from that makeup beginning, you've become one of the top hairstylists in the country. So it's kind of an ironic thing, but you fell into the cosmetology portion of it. Did you have any challenges while you were going to school? I mean, now you're in school, you hadn't really thought about doing hair, you're kind of doing hair to get to makeup. Any kind of challenges while you were in school that made you think, maybe I shouldn't even be doing this?
Well, I knew when I went to school that I didn't want a day job that was just like go to the office and all that, because my attention span's everywhere. So I wanted to work with people every day. I wanted it to be different. I didn't want, the paperwork and all that kind of stuff. So I figured it would be a good start doing hair. So I went to school, and in school, my first semester, I really struggled. I definitely it wasn't something that came naturally to me. I definitely had to learn it.
You got into this for something else now. So obviously now you're doing other things, but at some point it started biting you. This bug called cosmetology bit you, and it made you want to, wow, I can actually do this, and it's pretty cool. Was that during your pre-salon, or did that happen to you when you were on the student salon?
It didn't really hit me until one of the educators was like, what, you're actually pretty creative. You could actually do something with this. And I was like, well, like what? And she was like, there's this hair competition that you should enter. It's an international competition. I think you could do really well.
Wow. And what was the competition that she recommended?
It was Well as Trend Vision.
Trend Vision.
Trend Vision changed my life. And I didn't realize that I could actually do something with my career until I competed in that competition. I got a letter a couple weeks later saying I had made it to the top 22
But there's
finalists.
thousands and thousands of people that applied for that.
Yep.
And how many? Well, you won. Didn't you place the first year out?
Yes.
Okay.
I went, and I actually won at regionals.
Yeah.
And that was my most inspiring moment for me, because that's where I met Nick.
That's where the magic began. Is that right?
Well, it was very small, because he was there, and I, being from a small town right outside of Houston, I had no idea what our industry had to offer, like big hair shows and cutting hair on stage to music, and just really cool teamwork and all of that. I didn't know that existed.
Right.
So I was just like, wow, like that's really cool. I want to be a part of that one day. That's where I want to be. And so I got up there, and they called out my name for first place.
Oh my God.
And I
Wow.
Yes. So of course that was my trigger, and it was like, if I can win at regionals, I can win at nationals. So I went to nationals, and I placed third.
First time out. That's phenomenal.
First time out, third
and
in
how
the
long?
nation.
How long since you had been out of cosmetology? 1 year.
1 year.
Okay.
Yeah.
I mean, what an inspiration that is for somebody else to try to do the same thing. Now you've also, how many times have you entered that competition?
4.
4 times, and you've also won it.
I've won, yes.
Okay, which is amazing. But you didn't stop. That didn't stop you from trying something else out. So what was that?
So after Trend Vision, I was like, I feel like I've conquered this. What else can I do? And there's this hair competition called the North American Hairstyling Awards, which is the who's who of
it is.
hairdressing. And I was like, well, I'm going to try that. So I got online and I looked at past winners and finalists and kind of got a feel for what they were looking for. And I entered the fashion forward category.
Right.
And I was nominated for that, top 5.
And that's not the only competition.
Then I got a letter from Canada saying, you know, congratulations, we've seen your work and we think you're fantastic and we want you to enter, we are sending you an invitation to enter the International Hairstylist of the Year category for the Canadian Mirror Awards. And I thought it was a joke.
Yeah.
I was like,
come on, Canadian,
is this
a
serious?
Texas girl, and you want me to enter a Canadian
Yeah,
contest?
who knows me in Canada,
Yeah, right.
okay? So there's actually a Canadian guy that I work with, and I took the letter to him, and I said, is this for real? And he goes, you got invited to enter this? I was like, yeah. He goes, you have to do it. He's like, this is like NAHA for Canada. And I was like, wow.
And you did.
So I did, and I sent it in, and then I was nominated top 5 for that as well. And I'm sitting there, you know, my husband and I drove to Canada in a blizzard.
Oh, no.
Because who gets nominated for International Hairstylist of the Year?
Yeah.
You know, and
Yeah.
I was like, I have to go.
Yeah.
So I drove in a blizzard.
And
I did not win.
yeah, but you still placed in this
But
incredible thing.
I mean, top 5.
It's
And
incredible.
what I'm saying is sitting there at a table full of industry icons, you know, the greats,
The
and then
greats.
there's me.
And then,
I had been working with Nick for about a year, and he came into work one day and he said, Nicole, I think I was just an assistant for him.
Right.
I was not even a stylist on the floor for him yet.
because you don't start with Nick as a stylist.
You don't start with Nick as a stylist. I had been doing hair for 4 years, and he came and said, you have to assist. You don't have it yet.
Did you want to come to New York, or did he after having met you, wanted you to work for him?
Winning Trend Vision, placing third the first time, won me a trip to New York to do a photo shoot with Christopher and Sonia Dove. And so I took it, and I came to Rockefeller Center, never been in New York before, and I did, you know, there's these people there doing this photo shoot with like really conservative type looks, and I'm just banging out, you know, something
The stuff you love to
from
do.
like the 60s, you know,
Sure.
something crazy.
Right.
And Christopher Dove came up to me and said, what are you doing in Texas? Like, you should seriously be in New York.
Right.
And I said, you know, I think it's every stylist's dream to live in New York, but I think you have to have the right opportunity to pursue that. And he was like, well, if you worked here, who would you want to work for? And I said, I would definitely want to work for Rojo because I just love his vision, and you know, they have great teamwork, they have great stage presence and inspiration. And he was like, oh, okay. At the end of my photo shoot, he came up to me and said, you have an interview with Nick Rojo at the end of today. And I was like, what? I had nothing. I didn't have a portfolio. I didn't have a resume. I had nothing. But I took the chance. And I walked in, and he said, I'm Nick. And I said, I've met you before.
Right.
He was one of the judges at my competition. And he's like, so what's this? You want a job? And I was like, well, you know, if you need somebody to sweep your floors, or, you know, you need somebody to answer your phone or something, I'd be down for that, you know, whatever you're looking for. And he said, do you want to do cut or color? And I was like, I don't know, because at the time I was doing both.
Right.
So I said, I don't know. And he goes, well, you think about it, and then we'll set up another interview and see how it goes from there. And I said, okay. So I walked out of there. I called my dad. I was freaking out. Guess who I just had an interview with? You're going to freak.
Right.
And so I went home, and my dad handed me a $100 bill. And he said, now listen, I don't know much about hair because I don't have any, but you need to take this opportunity because it sounds like a great one. I want you to take this money and make the best portfolio you can. And so I did, and I put this book together, and it had tabs with a cover letter, a letter of recommendation, before and after photos, my competition work.
Wow.
And I went back to New York, and I had my second interview with Nick, and I handed him the book, and I said, I want you to look this over while you're deciding if you think I'm a right fit for your place. And he said, well, what do you want to do, cut or color? I said, I want to be a cutter. And he said, why? And I said, to be honest with you, I get really messy with color, and it just ruins my clothes.
That's a new one.
Yes. So and I knew I was taking a chance with that because there's so many cutters at Rojo, and so many people want to work alongside him that I knew I was taking a gamble. But he went through the book, and he handed it back to me, and I was like, no, you keep it. And he was like, well, when can you start? And I was like, is this
is it.
Is this a joke?
This
like,
is the real
for
world.
real? And then I moved to New York, and after being in New York for a year and working alongside of Nick, I was, you know, an assistant, and You know, at Roja, you go through a 22-month training program. So it's hard to rededicate yourself. Nick came into work and said, there's this show that you should try out for. And I was like, oh God, what show is this? You should try out for Sheer Genius. So I went and I asked him advice. I said, you know, you're on TV. What advice do you have for me? And he said, don't be a jerk. Whatever you do, don't be a jerk. No one likes a jerk.
Right.
And I said, all right, I'll do my best. So I
great.
went and I stood out in line with 350 other people. I was there for 4 hours before I actually got into my interview. So I go into my interview and I couldn't feel my face because I was so cold. And I was just over it, you know?
Yeah.
So I go in and the woman's like, why should we put you on the show? She's like, you're 24. Like, you're so young. You have, how can you do this?
Right.
And I said, I have the education and the skill level that more than half the people in that line out there couldn't pay for.
Very good. Talk about cocky.
Yes.
Talk about cocky.
Okay, there's my character.
But I like that. Okay.
So she goes, okay. She's like, all right, well, what makes you think you could win?
Right.
And I said, I've competed before. I'm pretty good at competing. And so I think I have what it takes to compete against anyone of any age.
So you did, and
so I did, and it was great. I made it onto the show, and Nick made a deal with me. He said, I think it's great that you made it on the show, but if you make it to the final 3, we'll cut your training and I'll put you on the floor. And I made it onto the show, and I competed with people who are double my age and have been in the industry double my age, and it was really hard, and I finished in the final 3. And I remember I came home and I wasn't allowed to tell anyone that I had made it.
For a couple of months, I think. Sometimes,
exactly.
Yeah.
But I was like, I'm telling him. I'm totally going to tell him.
Yeah.
So I said, you need to get my models lined up for my test out because I'm going on the floor.
You're talking about a national competition with thousands of people that are trying to get into this.
It's true. 25,000 people auditioned.
Yeah. So
And,
I'm sorry.
For them to pick 12,
Let's see,
I felt
3 out of 25,000. I'd say I was doing pretty darn good.
It was good.
That's
it was a great experience.
And then you got, as you just told us, you got your dream job with Nick. Nick has been an incredible mentor for you, hasn't he? A great trainer, an inspiration. He's very big inspiration for all of us at Empire, and frankly, almost everybody I know that's in the industry just adores him. What do you think the ingredients that our students should know, that as they're sitting there going, you know, can I make this? Can I be like her? Can I be like Nick? What do you think the ingredients of success are?
I think you just really need to have faith in yourself. That's the main ingredient, because no one else is going to believe in you if you don't believe in yourself, first and foremost. And just for me, I really just had doubt, and I was like, no, I'm not going to let anybody doubt me. I'm going to do it. So I decided to do it. And then after that came everything else. You know, I grew passionate about this craft and everything that it had to offer and the opportunities. I decided I don't just want to work behind the chair. I want to work outside of the bubble. I want to work with the Brad Pitts and the Angelina Jolies of our industry.
Right. Do you have any final points to our students?
I would say never say no. If you ever receive any opportunity from anyone, just say yes. I don't care if you don't feel like it. I don't care if you have other plans. You're talking about the rest of your life. Everything you do is a stepping stone to your next move. Take it, because you might not get another one.
That is so true. It really is. If somebody out there is saying, you know what, I want to do what you did. I want to work for a Rocha, or I want to work for somebody like a Rocha. What do you think the ingredients are to get into that salon?
I think the ingredients are knowing who that person is. You know, if you want to work for an icon or somebody that you personally think is great, find out about that person and what they have to offer and what they teach and what you can bring to the table. And then, just pursue it. Put together a great portfolio, send in a great resume, and keep on top of it. Because they're not going to come seeking after you. You have to seek after them. They've got enough resumes on their countertops. You're just one more until you stand out.
You got to get to the top of that pile.
You have to stand out. I brought my book to Nick, and he kept that book, and he took it to a staff meeting, and he said, look at this girl. She wants to work for us. But you want to stand out. You don't just want to You don't want to stay on the level.
Why be average? And I need to say this to you, that I'm so honored that you're part of the Masters of Beauty program. You're looking at taking education to the next level, not product-oriented education, not something you get at a traditional beauty show where they're trying to sell you something, but something where literally the only focus is on education and taking to people to the next level. And you're doing that right now, and I'm very proud of the fact that our organizations are working together on that.
We are too. I'm very honored
Pretty cool.
to be a part of it. So great.